Wait, what's the
Yeah, interesting. They both picked that.
Nice job.
No.
This may be the quietest I've heard the museum in the last hour and a half. It's okay to make some noise. This is a lecture hall, but we're here to talk about video games. Is that all right with you? All right. Welcome, I'm Scott Boberg, Manager of Programs and Audience Engagement here at the Toledo Museum of Art. And you know, life like video games is full of these amazing revelations. And as we were putting together the programming for this exhibition, we realized that there's someone from Toledo who is a major player in the industry and happened to be here in Toledo this weekend anyway, and so it was logical for us to extend an invitation to someone who maybe her vision in Seattle is the Space Needle and Mount Rainier, but really I think her vision in what she does is right here in Toledo. So I'd like to ask you to help me in welcoming senior Xbox producer Holly Hirzel, who will basically take you on a little informal introduction into her 17 years in this industry. And then we'll open up to questions, informal, keep it light, and then you'll have a chance to go back upstairs and experience the exhibition, what's happening outside. And again, thank you for being here. Please help me welcome Holly Hirzel.
Okay, so if I talk too fast, Mom just... Okay, thanks. Talk too fast. Yeah, what it's like to work in the game industry. So my name's Holly. I've been working in video games for about 17 years. I have worked as an independent developer, working on the PlayStation 1 and Dreamcast, and then I've also worked for Sony Online, developing MMOs, PlayStation, and Xbox, which is where I currently am, in an incubation group doing secret stuff. I'll talk about that later, but not really kind of secret. Okay, so let's go. This is very informal, and my parents will get a chance to see how we communicate internally. And at Microsoft, everything we do has animated GIFs as part of our emails, so this is pretty much the entire presentation. This is what people think the game industry is like. Some of you know the scene from this movie. If you don't, your children or friends will tell you about it. Yeah. So people, of course, think that you just play video games all day and night, and that, of course, everything that you dream of will get made and will be AAA, and will be amazing, and you'll get rich, and that you will never have to compromise your vision. And all of that, of course, is not true. Really, more what it's like is this guy right here, where you start doing one thing and then it just goes. So what it's really like, and that guy in the corner is definitely me. You work a lot. You work. That's my job. You work a lot. You know, during the week, it's usually about 50 hours. And then during crunch time, which is anything leading up to E3 or any holiday season, you're pretty much working 6 days a week, maybe 7. You work a lot. And you have to, because if you don't meet the deadlines and you don't hit the holiday, you don't sell anything. I'm trying not to cuss. You don't really sell much, and so the holiday dates are really important, so you have no choice but to just grind and grind and grind to make that happen. It's a little bit easier now because you have digital downloads for you can do updates and everything, and with digital distribution that makes things a little bit easier. But in general, you work a lot. And you definitely, when you start working in games, you don't play games so much because you work on them so much. The last thing you want to do when you get home is sit in front of a computer or play a game. And the only people that play games all day are testers, and that is the hardest job in the game industry. It is the place where most people make their entry. So if you don't think you know how to do anything, you can probably get a job as a tester, and if it doesn't grind you down into nothingness, then you have a chance to grow from there. But it's a very, very tough job. But you do get to play games all day, technically. Yeah, and there's about 100 people ready to take your place if you suck at your job. So you need to make sure that you don't take what you do for granted because everybody wants your job. And they'll probably do it for less money. So I guess it's like any profession. In general, I think there is a shortage of good people. And so one of the reasons why I'm here is to encourage you that the video game industry is a viable industry. So for the parents out there, it is a viable industry, as my parents have seen Dad. I make money making video games. But it's not easy, and I'll go into that a little bit later as well. You do get all the free pop and snacks you want, and you get the fat ass to go with it, unless you make an effort. So you gotta be careful about that. I guess I shouldn't say yes. And then there's a special group of people, which I do have the honor of being one of them. For the people that do start their own game business, whether it's mobile phone games or Java games or whatever you think you're going to do, the worry of money and the pursuit of getting money will suck your soul dry. And when you get a publishing gig, you get to take whatever job they want to give you, and when they give you a poop sandwich, you say, yes, I would like more poop sandwiches, please, because you have to prove that you are capable, and you don't get to choose the best cherry products. You have to do the work and show that you're capable and reliable, that you can deliver a quality product, and that you can deliver it on time. So it's not just like someone's going to walk in and say, hey, make me the next Titanfall, because that's not going to happen. You take any work you can get, but the pros are that if you are a small indie game developer, you can make the game that you want. And it's true for phone games or flash games or anything else, because it's your vision. And when you don't take a bunch of money from a publisher, you get to control the outcome of the game and the artistic vision of that. And you also learn way more than you ever expected. I think anyone who runs a business will learn more than they expect. But for me, I always joke that my brother was like, man, you gotta go to business school. I didn't need to go to business school. I ran a game developer and I did all the wrong things. So it was a great experience for me to learn what not to do. I would have been a case study that you would have studied in college of all the things not to do. But I learned some, so that's good. Is it really that bad? Yeah, kinda is, but I still do it. Yep. And there are two games in my head that resonate with me, one which I worked on and one which I wish I worked on, but I play all the time. So the top game is 1 vs. 100, which was a game, thanks Mom. I know 3 people in this room played it, so that's good. 1 vs. 100 was the first casual MMO game that Xbox Live had done. It was a trivia game where we could get 130,000 people playing a trivia game at the same time. And the cool thing about that, which was my goal, was that we brought all different kinds of people together to play. It was the first time that my mom and dad had ever sat down with a controller in front of an Xbox and played a game with me. And we got a lot of fan mail saying that this was the type of game that brought families together. Even if they lived in different states, they were able to matchmake and party up and be able to participate and play. And through playing, that's how you bring people together. And to be able to bring families together to do something like that, and to expand the perception that the Xbox is only good for shooting things was a really proud moment for me. The second game, which is, in my opinion, the greatest game of all time, which is Dota 2. No league. No harm. Dota 2. So for me, Dota 2 is, when I first walked, I had the good fortune of living in Seattle. And I've played Dota for 6 years now, at least. And I've met a lot of different people playing that game. I've met, there's a voice chat, so everyone finds out I'm a girl, so it's like, oh my god, there's a girl playing a video game, which is its own freak out, which is weird. And then when they find out I'm a 42-year-old mother, that even blows their minds even more. But for me, it was, Dota 2 is not only a great game, but it brings a lot of different people from different cultures together. So last month, a guy that I played Dota with had come to Seattle because he was going to learn English. And I was like, dude, your English is fine. What are you doing? He's like, I just started learning English 8 months ago when I learned everything through Dota. And he's from Saudi Arabia. And when he came here, his English was great. And Jack knows because he met him, that's my son. And the guy's English was amazing. And he said learned everything just through playing this game. And we were having dinner and I learned all this stuff about Saudi Arabia that I had no idea. So that was kind of cool, and I would have never met him and never made that connection with him had it not been for this game. And the other thing to me that games like Dota do, or any sort of game, especially that's a professional, that has a professional gaming scene, is for me, I've never cared about sports. I've never been a sports person. I've never followed teams. I don't care about anything. But when the Dota 2 is selling out Key Arena and I can walk in and be in a room full of nerds that all play my game, it's like I came home. It's like, oh my God. It's like they're up on stage in a room for my team and I'm playing in fantasy leagues. And for me, this is all happening because of a video game, but it's so much more of that. And I now feel that I understand the culture of gaming like sports gamers do, but I never knew it until games like this went pro. I mean, people do that for StarCraft, but for me, it's Dota 2. So anyway, that's my love for Dota, even though I work at Microsoft. So of course, for video games, it is an incredibly immersive vehicle for storytelling, and Limbo to me is such a great example of this. It's a simple art style, but it is the art style and the sound that drives the mood of the game, and any other art style would not have the same feeling or generate the same immersion. So when you think about the power of art to dictate how you feel and to pull you into a story, you can think about the best book that you read on a beach, but then when you add a visual component like this, it just blows it up so much, and it's such a powerful, powerful vehicle for storytelling. The other thing for me is that in my job in an incubation group at Microsoft, I learn something new every day. And it's not just about technology, which I do learn about every day, but it's also about how to work with people and to achieve things as a team. And that you don't learn until you do it. And I appreciate the opportunity I have to work with such great people. And plus my kids think I'm cool, I think. Okay. So, for those of you who are not scared and still think that you want to get in, by the way, every one of those stairs represents like 3 months of game development. It just keeps going and you're at the bottom of it. So, the qualifications for how to get into the game industry. Being able to know a lot about a lot of different types of games and be able to critique and analyze the mechanics is sort of a given, especially if you think you're going to be a designer. More importantly, if you think you're going to be a game designer, you and everybody else, by the way, you have to have the ability to invent your own games. You will be expected to bring in prototypes if you ever interview or try to get a job. And if you don't have digital prototypes, you better have paper ones, or you will be expected to make up a game on the spot using found materials. So for anyone who wants to be a game designer, you have to be on the ball in terms of what is a game, and it's about your world and not necessarily just bits on a computer. Again, at the very, very least, if you think you want to make games, you better bust out at least 20 different paper game prototypes. And then when you understand, get your friends to play them and get feedback on them, and then you can start to understand really why people play it and what they find rewarding. So it's a good place to start. That's point number 1 and 2. The third point, where you can get people to get organized. So my job is a producer, a project manager. So I manage programmers and artists and audio dudes and tester dudes and dudettes and marketing people and legal people and the business people that manage the IP, all sorts of people. And everything has to be done in a particular order. So I have somewhat of an ability to organize things. It's not like when I go in for a game job, I have a portfolio of being a producer. Well, now I do, but back then I didn't. So the only thing that you can do is point to things that you were able to organize. Maybe you organized a charity fundraiser for the local kids hospital. Maybe you did a 24-hour play-a-thon where you organized people to play video games. At the end, the proceeds went to Hospital X. Or you were able to organize something for your fraternity and sorority that involved play and involved benefiting somebody else. So anything that can demonstrate your ability to get a disparate group of people together, a group of people that don't report to you and don't necessarily care about you. Your ability to get people to work together towards a common goal is what's important in a project manager, and you can demonstrate that when you interview by having in your resume things you might have done in your community. So you don't have to have something, bits on the resume, but you do have to be able to point to things that you've done and organized. The ability to find problems and help fix them. So it's not just, hey, this sucks. It's, yeah, that sucks, but maybe here's what you can do about it. And I know this guy, maybe he can help, and maybe we can get on a forum and find someone else to help. And so that is the essential ability of testers and also programmers, is to identify problems and, more importantly, to help fix them. Not just stop at finding the problem, but to find the solution, because really that's ultimately what it's about. And then the last part is the essential part of being a community manager or in marketing, or even being a designer, is the ability to get people excited about what you're doing. So even if you invent a crappy paper game, if you can get everyone around you pumped about it, that's saying something, because you just sold people. You sold people an idea or a dream. And this is a really important ingredient in teams, especially when you're like me, and you're 3.5 years in, and you got another year to go. You got to be able to get people around you pumped, and people around you, when you start to flag, you need to rely on their energy. So this is a really, really valuable skill to have. Not qualifications. And for the non-gamers in the room, if you don't understand, I'm sorry. But the gamers, you'll know what these mean. I hope. Yeah. Ranting about why things suck doesn't help. And, being really good at one game, World of Warcraft or anything else, doesn't qualify you for anything, I'm sorry to say. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, so really, if you want to get a job in video games, you should probably stop playing video games, which will please all the parents in the room. But it's true. Really what we look for is we look for makers, and we look for people that make things, whether it's art or sculptures or 2D drawings or 3D drawings and illegal copies of Maya or Unreal or whatever you want to do to get the stuff done. We want people that make things. And again, it can be anything. We've hired jewelry designers. We hire 3D designers. We hire UI designers, programmers, musicians. So if you want to be the guy who's doing the audio effects, you better start composing, and you better start making sound effects of all the crazy things in your world. Sitting around and playing a bunch of video games will not get you a job in the industry. You have to know how to make something, and you have to be completely focused on being a maker. And that's what will set you apart from the others. Especially if you're trying to get in and you don't have anything to point to, you don't have a game that you've done with your friends, you should have a portfolio of all the other crap in your life that you've made that you think is cool. And more importantly, the more stuff you have, the better. And you should be able to take criticism about it and be able to talk about why you made what you made and the choices that you made and so on and so forth. So I cannot emphasize this enough. Please stop playing video games and go make something if you want to get a job in the industry. This is the part that people ask me 3 or 6 months in after they've gotten a job at Microsoft, and they are feeling completely demoralized and sad because they're not sure what they're doing or how they're doing it. And these are sort of like life lessons, but these are the rules that we go by in my group. So it doesn't matter if you're making video games or if you're making lemonade at your lemonade stand. You have to be really clear on your goals and communicate them all the time. And this is the problem. This is actually my biggest challenge, because I get so focused on what I'm doing that I kind of forget to tell everybody else what I'm doing. And then they're like, what's Holly doing? Because we haven't heard from her, because I'm so busy doing this that I forget to tell everybody. So it's really important that you communicate what you're doing, and so that not only you can make sure everyone else is doing it, but that you can make sure that you're doing the right thing. Because if you're starting off with the intention of making Clash of Clans knockoff for your phone, and it turns out that you really were supposed to be making something else, it's really good to reiterate the goals all the time, because you will get sidetracked. some other game will come out or some movie will come out, and everyone will start to look at the shiny thing and then kind of forget about what the original goal was. And if there's one thing that derails games, and I've seen it over and over, it's that you get distracted by the shiny thing, and especially when you work on something for 3 to 4 years, or 1 to 2 years. You really have to stay clear on the goals. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something, because you can. And there's evidence of that upstairs. You can never make a game work in 8K or whatever it is. You can do it. You just have to try hard, or it might take a while for the technology to catch up. But you can find ways of doing things, and it's the restrictions that breed the invention in the genre. So don't ever let someone tell you can't do something, because it turns out you can. If you do try something, this is probably the biggest rule for us in my incubation group, is that if you try something and it doesn't work, great, that's good, because the thing you have to do is tell everybody else why it didn't work. Because if you do something and you try to hide it, then no one can learn from you, and then you just wasted, I don't know, $500,000 doing something that was stupid. It's okay to do that, but you have to tell everybody else why it didn't work. And you can't have an ego about it. You just be like, this is what I tried, it didn't work, and here's what I'm going to try next time. So fail and fail fast, because the more failures you have, the more learnings you have to take to the next product. And then really, when you, park the ego, that's really important. And I learned this at Microsoft, because I went to Microsoft, and I'd been working in the industry for 11 years or 10 years at that point, and I thought I knew everything. I didn't know. And that was really humbling for me. And I'm still continually humbled, and I don't understand why they hired me, because everyone is 10 billion times smarter than me. And the way that I learned how to build software was all the wrong ways, and now I know. So now I'm learning the right way to do things. But it's really, really important, especially in a team area. There are very few people that can maintain that ego. And yeah, Steve Jobs good, because he was Steve Jobs, but no one else is Steve Jobs, and no one else is American McGee, even though he's really not that great. But the point is, you can't afford to have an ego, and the only way you can do that is if you're paying for everybody. If you've got so much money, if you're Gabe, you can have an ego if you're Gabe, because you're Gabe, but that's it. And so when you roll in, you've got to be humble. You have to be able to take criticism and just be like, okay, my idea sucked. Yeah, I did that wrong. And then move on, because big deal, it didn't work. And then because of that, and if you have the character that allows you to take criticism and to learn from other people, your people around you will be more likely to bring you up and to celebrate the success of the team. And again, with games these days, especially big games, they take so long to make that you have to be able to celebrate the success and keep the mood up as much as possible, because it's a grind. And the more that you can celebrate, the happier you'll be, and the happier you are to come to work, the better product you make. So this is a video that our art director Alberto did from our team. This is totally what it's like to work every day at Microsoft.
Because he was totally texting me all night last night, and I don't know if he's real or not. So, we had a little she's so short, the trust is so
That's my team. So I'm gonna ask questions. This guy. I'm gonna go with Navi. Yeah.
What's the question? Repeat the question.
Oh, the question was who's gonna win the Dota 2 International? The prize goes up to $10 million. So for those Dota 2 players, Dundee hooks. Next question, please. Yes.
What does Microsoft think of its own code?
Oh, it's what?
Odoo?
Of Kodoo? Oh, well, Project Spark is born out of that. Have you seen Project Spark?
Yes.
Yeah, it's born out of that. So there's a whole group of people that were super pumped about Kodoo, which is a simplified game programming, visual game programming language that teaches kids how to program. And so there's this cool game called Project Spark that came out that teaches kids the basics of terrain forming, AI pathways, and stuff like that. It's really cool, and they've dumped a lot of money into it. Like that. Yeah.
What do you recommend the next step after that? Kids will want to learn.
Well, it depends. You have to identify what they want to learn. I mean, there's artists, there's programmers, there's audio people, there's designers, there's project managers like me, there's testers, there's lawyers, there's marketers, which get people pumped about buying all the stuff that the other 7 groups people made. There's the money guys. There's also community support people. So the people that go out and get the community excited about what they're doing. There's also QA, I already said QA, customer support people, which is not very exciting, but essential, but mostly outsourced to India these days. So, what else is there? And then there's also, as you go up the chain, you get to direct the portfolio, but you kind of have to identify the interests. So either you want to draw, or you want to program, or you want to make noises, or you want to organize the previous 3 types. And so once you decide that, you can kind of go from there. And if you want to draw, then draw. And you can either learn how to be a 2D concept artist, and everybody wants to be a concept artist. That's the stuff that you saw upstairs in the exhibit, where it's the 2D drawings. I think they showed some StarCraft stuff and World of Warcraft stuff. Concept artist, that's a hard job to get. What's more common is learning how to 3D model and do the 2D textures and stuff. So if you have any interest, you want to either learn how to draw really well, or to learn how to build things in 3D. But if you're just starting out and you want to be an artist in the game industry, start drawing everything around you. And don't just draw anime over and over, because everyone does that and no one cares. So make up your own stuff, and even more importantly, make up your own stuff and then do 100 different versions of what you just did. Because what happens is, you've got an idea for a monster that looks like blah blah blah, and then the art director comes in and poops on it and says, I would like to see 50 versions of that by tomorrow. And you do that in 50 different versions. So draw and then iterate, and just keep doing it, and do it till the cows come home, because that's how you get better at anything. Next, yes.
How much is gaming used in Maya program today?
Oh, Maya's, that's what we use. I mean, a ton of people use Maya. It's either Maya or 3ds Max, but pretty much it. I mean, once you understand the principles of one, you understand the other. But there's a lot of people that use Maya. Next, yeah.
We eventually PC gaming or we console gaming. That console is weak in the past. Do you think that this is true, and why?
I don't think consoles will be a thing in the past, but at some point, PCs and consoles will probably merge as things get smaller and more ubiquitous in the house. But there's always going to be a market for games on PC, because they can, there's no lowest common denominator of hardware that you necessarily have to game to, and there will always be power-hungry people like me that prefer PC gaming over console. Yes! Don't tell my boss, don't tell Xbox that I prefer PC gaming over console gaming. Only because I'm a graphics snob, and I also prefer RTSs. So it depends, on the type of input that you have. But I think what we'll see is that it's going to change quite dramatically in the next 5 years anyway. I can't say why yet. Yeah, wait, hold on. Who hasn't asked a question? That guy.
In your experience, does building a game with DLC content make it easier, or is it harder because it draws out the process?
Because what was the last part?
Because DLCs would draw out the process. And it might take
Draw out the process?
Yeah.
Well, it actually shortens the process in some ways because the question was about games with downloadable content, like content packs, like map packs or power-ups or whatever, there's all sorts of stuff. I think DLC is a good idea because it allows you to get a small version of the game out and in the wild to get feedback on before you start adding on to it. And it gives you a lot more flexibility. So, especially for me and for console gaming, anytime you can get something out and be able to update it and keep it fresh with new content packs, that is better, and you also extend the life of the product. I mean, just look at Civilization, they're the masters of this. Yeah.
When we have different roles of the team, where is the responsibility of like story development, screenwriting, scriptwriting, where does that fall?
In the creative department, so the designers, and you'll have a couple different designers depending on the type of game that you have. So for something like Halo, you'll have an overall, in fact they were just hiring for this position, but I think they fill it. They have an overall story guy who's responsible for deeply understanding the history of the product and developing the story arc, and those are typically professional writers or something like that. And then you have the writers that do the dialogue, and then you also have the people that might not write, but they might shape the ancillary products like the novels or the comic books or something like that. That all comes from the creative department. It's very rare that anyone else would get involved in directing that for any reason. Yeah.
What's the coolest project you've ever worked on?
The one I'm working on right now. Can't tell us
What's the coolest project you worked on that you can tell us about?
Well, that was 1 versus 100 because for me that was such a technological achievement because it was a casual game that was wrapped up as an MMO, which no one really noticed, that featured a live host. So we had a live host broadcasting it and talking about the gameplay. That required so many different types of people to pull off. We had a team of trivia writers that would write fresh content every week, so that had to be topical. We had the game team. We gave away live prizes, and every rule is different in every state for how you can do prizes because it constitutes gambling and there's all that mess. So we had a prize team to organize, but technologically to be able to pull off an MMO like that on a scheduled time across the world, it was all over the world the game was played. It was ahead of its time and it died a sad death, but the things that we learned on that pretty much established polling and live interactive gaming on a massive scale. And so for me that was an incredible experience and expertise I've got.
We have time for maybe one more question, but I invite you all to gather and stay here and ask questions and chat informally.
Yeah, you can ask me after too. That's cool. What's up?
Many parents believe that some violence today is caused by video games. Do you believe video games should be more regulated?
No.
No?
Holly?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank
Thanks
you
for
all for
having
being
me.
here.